Hey everybody, Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon coming at you today with a few malicious compliance stories. First one, you want me to finish the kids section first? Alright, let's jump right in. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. When I was young, I really enjoyed reading, still do. The municipal library had a section for underage readers, books for children and young readers up to 16, and a separate one for adults, not restricted to adult books, but everything not especially written for children. The usual division was you'd get a yellow library pass for the children's section or a gray one for the adult section, which included access to the children's section, with separate entrances for the sections. My biggest problem was I was rather grown up at an early age, so I started reading at 4, read books intended for age 10 to 13 at age 8, and so on. And I was only allowed to take 6 books from the library at any one time, so I had to return to get new ones several times a week, reading only an hour in the evening just before going to bed. I really hated this situation because I knew the adult section had bigger books, more pages, less pictures. Imagine Saint Number 5 from Short Circuit, Need Input, which I wasn't allowed to take yet. When I asked about access to the adult section at age 12, the head librarian told me I'd have to wait until I was 16. 4 long years, and when I whined about children's books being boring and too short, she said I could only have access to the adult section once I'd read all the books in the children's section, which she didn't believe anybody had ever done. Can't make any exceptions as all the librarians were so busy, understaffed. Cue malicious compliance. A few days later, on the first day of our 6-week summer holidays from school, I started reading. Not for fun, but with a goal in mind. Leaving aside all the books I'd read already, everything even remotely interesting, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 books, there were only about 1,500 books in the children's section I hadn't read yet, and at an average of maybe 50 pages, they were easy to finish within a few minutes each. For comparison, the last Harry Potter book took me approximately 5 hours to read. So my days were structured like, go to the library, get 6 books, go outside to a bench in the park, read 6 books, return 6 books, repeat until closing time. My turnaround time after leaving the library was between 5 and 60 minutes depending on the books. Obviously, baby books were like 30 seconds each. What came from this? I discovered science fiction, which I still love, and learned to detest shallow romance novels. I read lots of books, and the librarians got to know me quite well because they had to register the books to my account. Back then, done with a numbered paper slip ripped off the back of my library card. 1 block of those with 100 slips had to be replaced at least every second day. Registered them again as returned, sort them into the racks again, so I caused quite a lot of work for them, to the extent of basically occupying one of them exclusively. Still, they were really helpful, given we shared the love of books and reading, and some of them actively assisted by keeping a pile of books ready at the counter to make my turnaround even quicker. Maybe they wanted to stick it to the head librarian. Took me nearly 4 weeks of reading, honing my skills, and then the day came. I returned the last books, some teenager romance novel with lots of horses, absolutely not what I wanted to read, and asked for my adult library card. The head librarian couldn't believe it, went to check my file, and was met by absolute outrage by the children's library librarians who had witnessed what I had done. She nearly choked when she filled in my gray card with her typewriter, but had the good grace to wish me fun with the new exciting world of the adult library. OP added on at the bottom something that kinda ties it up and brings us to today. It says, to be honest, I did not repeat that with the adult library, so when I left my hometown for university, there were still thousands of volumes left unread there. Today, I make do with an unlimited ebook reading package from a big company. I simply can't afford to buy as many books as I read. Listening to this story makes me realize that I don't read anywhere near as much as I should. In fact, I can't remember the last time I finished a full book. Be right back. Need to go to the library. On to our next story. I don't care if you're sick. If you don't attend the final exam, you'll fail the subject. Let's jump right in. This story happened to me in my college days many years ago, and to this day, whenever I remember it, I let out a smile. I graduated in a traditional and very strict engineering school. At that time, there were not substitutive exams of any kind, no matter the reason. So it wasn't uncommon for people to fail subjects because they couldn't attend the test day. In the end of my last year, I don't know how or why, since I took the vaccine, I got chickenpox. Luckily for me, I didn't suffer at all, maybe a day with mild fever, and that's it. All the itching was completely mitigated with medicine, although externally I looked really bad. More concerned about my appearance than anything, I called and asked if I could take my exam another day. The lady who answered it immediately denied my request, as expected. Then, being as patient and kind as possible, I tried to explain my situation, but she was very rude and cut my explanation short, not letting me even say what my illness was. As a last attempt, I asked if at least I could take the exam in a separate classroom. Then she told me to wait on the line. I heard some people talking in the background and laughing. After she left me hanging for more than 10 minutes, she comes back just to say that there is no way. So I thanked her and hung up. I don't really know what the heck they expected, that I didn't come and failed my very last test? Hell no. So I went, looking absolutely hideous. Not a square inch of my skin didn't have a mad rash, including my face. In the class, after the monitor arrives, he told me to remove my sunglasses and cap as per regulations, and so I did, including my jacket and medical face mask. Oh boy, I'll never forget his facial expression. And then my fun begins. During the test, I start to fake cough like a man about to die. Getting really good on my act was really amusing, seeing the monitor's reaction going from a little apprehension to total panic until he gave up and left, leaving the class unattended. Barely able to hold my bursting laugh at this point, my colleague who got what was going on looked at me also holding his laugh and shaking his head. In the end, I did pretty well on the exam and had my fun, including paying a visit to the lady who left me hanging. Later on, after graduation, I found out through a friend that I became sort of a famous joke, like the guy who came back from the dead to attend his exam. I've got to be honest with you, if I was in an exam and somebody started coughing who looked like that, I would probably want to get the heck out of Dodge as well. On to story number 3, lots of onion. Let's jump right in. I'm the one who got maliciously complied with. I'm a huge fan of red onions. Every time I go to the Subway near my house, it seems that the portion of onions is never enough. To be fair, it really isn't enough. The lady always puts like a few strands of onion. Sometimes I can count the number of pieces on one hand. I worked at Subway before, so I know the proper amount of onions to give, and this lady is shortchanging me. Of course, my onion-loving will tell her to keep adding more and more until I am satisfied. I'm not unreasonable. I do tell her it's enough after 2 or 3 times, and I thank her politely, but I can tell she is getting fed up with me. So I just ordered my usual sandwich, and I thought, instead of telling her to keep adding it on, why don't I just tell her to add a lot the first time? Satisfied with my brilliant idea, I tell her lettuce, cucumber, and a lot of onion. I'm a regular and she knows my face, so I expected that she would probably know the amount of onions I want. Instead, she looks me in the eye, grabs a massive handful of onions, and dumps it on the sandwich. Onions are falling out of it now. I probably deserve that, laugh out loud, but it's better to have too much onion than to have too little. I really like the power move of this Subway worker, staring the customer right in the eyes and enacting their malicious compliance with a ton of onions. On to our fourth and final story. We need as many as you can send us, stat! Let's jump right in. I work in the dispatch department of a hospital, and it is my job to receive phone calls from clerks and nurses requesting porters. I take the call, input the information, and send the info to a porter so they can proceed with the patient transfer, equipment delivery, etc. A certain department calls us incessantly asking for wheelchairs to be delivered. It doesn't matter how many wheelchairs they already have, they will always call for more. They like to hoard them and hide them away in separate rooms so that it looks like they don't have any when the porter arrives with more. In this hospital, hoarding any equipment creates delays for patient transfers because it becomes hard for porters to locate the needed equipment in areas where they are supposed to be available. This department has been getting away with this for years, and any complaint to management usually results in a temporary fix, about a week, in which we receive fewer requests for wheelchairs from said department. Anyways, on to my malicious compliance. It has been an extremely busy day, and the usual clerk from the hoarder department has been calling us excessively to deliver wheelchairs and has been rude about it every time. We try to explain that we need to keep some wheelchairs on reserve for other departments, which we have explained thousands of times to them before. And she just scoffs at me and my coworkers and repeats that she needs wheelchairs because she doesn't have any. At one point, the clerk calls me in a rage and is screeching in my ear about how we still haven't delivered any wheelchairs, which we have, and we have call records to prove it, and that she needs as many as you can send us, stat. Then slams the phone in my ear. Okay, I'll send you as many as we can. I proceed to call a porter that has worked here a long time and knows the situation with the hoarder department very well. Also, he is retiring soon and has always been a guy that works around the rules, and we're all union so we can get away with a lot. I tell him the situation and tell him very clearly that they need as many as we can send them. He chuckles and says, no problem. About 30 to 45 minutes later, I get a call from hoarder department. It's not the rage lady from earlier, unfortunately, but it was still very satisfying to hear them say, can you please have a porter come remove some wheelchairs? I say, sure, how many would you like removed? She says, I kid you not, as many as you can get out of our hallway. It's congested with wheelchairs and is a fire hazard. It's super satisfying to hear them want wheelchairs removed for once, but I figure they're exaggerating as usual, except this time, the opposite of their usual request. By this point, the porter who delivered them has gone home. I call a different porter that I get along with, tell them the story, and send them up to assess the chaos and remove some wheelchairs. She calls back when she's up there, and she's just laughing uncontrollably while telling me that there are over 30 wheelchairs stuffed in the hoarder department and the connecting hallway. Apparently, the clerks were trying to push the entire collection of them out of the hallway at once because they couldn't get through the sea of wheelchairs to move them one by one. The retiring porter literally trapped them in their department with wheelchairs. Surprisingly, no one got in trouble or talked to at all. I'm not even sure my coordinator heard about the situation. Hoarder department is still consistent with calling for wheelchair delivery, but a little less so. The rude clerk is still rude, but she is very prompt on the phone and a little less sassy than before. I call it a win. That malicious compliance worked out so much better than OP thought it was going to. I sure hope OP bought that porter a beer for being epic. I want to thank all 4 of the authors for posting their stories to the Malicious Compliance subreddit. You can visit them at the links down in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.